scientism trap, the missing link between science and spirituality. These are two concepts that are often thought of as separate and beyond that, very contradictory or antagonistic of each other. Typically, there's a very large dichotomy between kind of atheistic, nihilistic people that very much use science or agreed upon science as the foundation of their beliefs or their worldviews. And then on the other side of it, you have religionists who are very dogmatic with their special magic book and set in their ways, and both very much dismissing one another as if they disprove each other or something like that. And of course, when you're looking at that dichotomy, in a way there's truth, because both foundations are faulty. There's scientism, which is not true science, and then religion, which is not true spirituality. And these two things are not compatible with each other, because the only division in this entire reality field lies in illusions. Truth is the all. It is the unified everything. And so anytime there is a conflict, it's because it's truth and illusion having some kind of battle in a way, often through human behavior. So that's kind of like setting the stage in terms of the dichotomy and the mindset that we want to get into here. So I'll let Brian comment on that.
Yeah, no, this is a good one to kind of look at, especially like with kind of what's going on in the world. We see a lot of people, this whole trust the science, listen to the scientists, and it's all this kind of blind faith that they take things on, but there's no actual practice of science itself. So yeah, we're, as always, we're going to start by defining our terms and everything. And Logan, would you like to start that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start kind of like with the official definition of science, according to a quick Google search, is the intellectual and practical activity. Each word is very loaded, intellectual, to pick apart, right? Discernment, truth and not truth, and practical, as in, is this useful? Is there some way that this knowledge empowers? Activity, so it's an action, encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and, keyword, and natural world through observation and experiment. So that, it's a lot of words there, but I really like the wording, and it's very concise in terms of what we're trying to get at with this episode. Whereas scientism, and Brian and I more or less kind of came up with this definition on our own, a dogmatic set of axioms arbitrarily agreed upon by a community with credentials to be considered an authority, a word we talk about and in critique often on this show, which tend to focus solely on the physical plane of reality. Very key part there as well. So it's dogmatic, it's rigid. It's like, this is what's agreed upon. It's, very similar to the church in so many ways when we start like really taking a closer look here.
Yeah, no, I think, just highlighting the difference between those, like, and with science, we can always take it back to the etymology of the word, which comes from the Latin sciare, which means to know. So science means that, that you're observing, so to know. That's why, like, when we use the word conscience, it's consciare, is to know together. That's what becoming conscious is. So like raising your awareness, your conscious thing, the things that we talk about on this channel all the time, that is the practice of science. You're bringing all the knowledge together. Where scientism, it's blind faith. It's, these people in these magical white coats said this. Oh, he has a degree, so that means he is beyond fault. He's beyond being wrong, and then we just have to believe him. Oh, this government organization called the CDC or the FDA or whatever other alphabet gang you want to put out there, they said this, so that must be true. Even though you can look back at the history and show over and over and over again where those things were faulty and where they were incorrect, but these people will still have a blind faith, and you can really see this at play with like what's going on in the world right now. is very much, there's not science being practiced, there's scientism being practiced. And that's why, you see all the branch Covidians. It's just this blind faith, and it's become like a new religion, in the same way that it's tying them back from actually being able to move forward at all. So two very different things. One is seeking and questioning and being willing to see that, like, you could be wrong, you could have misinterpreted things. And when you're presented with new information, changing your mind, factoring that in. You're testing things through cosmic law and observing. That's why the word experiment's in there. You're experimenting and you're observing the results from that. The other is just blind faith. It's, they tell me that, these studies say that wearing a mask is good for me, so I'm going to do it, even though I can't, like, just trust my own body and see, oh, how do I feel when I wear this? It's two very different. One, you're putting the authority outside of yourself. The other, you are practicing that self-discovery yourself. Very, very different things.
Very well said. And the theme here really is that dogmatism, like you were saying, is like, this is the truth. And so it doesn't matter what conflicting information, even if it makes sense to my own mind, I'm going to reject that because I'm clinging to this. The interesting thing is there are a lot of parallels with, again, religion and science, even though they think that they're like total opposites of each other. That's the irony, is they're similar probably in more ways than they're not, in that, okay, at least on the religion side, you're looking at total rigid dogmatism because it doesn't change. If you're going off of a book that's thousands of years old, that book isn't changing. I mean, yeah, it's been kind of reworded a few times, loose translation, etc. Whereas it's with the science thing, it's a bit of a different kind of dogmatism, where it's more malleable because new discoveries and when things are shared, it's hard to kind of contain information sometimes. And so, like, they have to acknowledge these things, but it's done in a very controlled way. And so things may change a little bit more, be a little less rigid than, say, like following a holy book, but it's still dogmatic in the way that it's still adhering to this agreed upon truth, where if enough experts agree on something, then suddenly it like becomes like the holy text in the minds of people that treat science like a religion, which is most. We're kind of calling this out. So yeah, like it's very interesting to see how you've just traded the black robe with the little neck piece for the white, white lab coat. And instead of a holy book, you've got peer-reviewed journals and books authored by doctors and things like that. Like, that is taken as truth to people who are, from day one in this society that has been constructed, taught to not question, especially when it's something touted as authority. Like, again, we see in the Milgram experiment, very famous study that proved that people will literally cause harm to another person up to the point of thinking that they've killed them just because a scientist told them to. That is terrifying. And that is a common psychological aspect. Know thyself, even the ugly shit. This is very important because when unchecked, it's dangerous. So, like, there's so many implications of this. We're not just trying to get on our high horse and bitch about things. These are fundamental worldview understandings that if you're off on this stuff, your life and everything that you create is going to be fucked up. That's what natural law is all about. Trivium, keeping the foundation as close to truth as humanly possible. It doesn't mean perfect. It means ever striving for higher, deeper truths.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and again, like I said, it really does come down to being able to trust your own self and know yourself enough to make those kind of decisions and not just put your faith in someone else because they told you to. That blind faith, that blind obedience, like, that is a very, very dangerous thing. And we've seen throughout history how that has played out in many, many different ways, and it always ends terribly.